Hi. Welcome back to another episode of the Harness Players Podcast. I'm Ray Cotolo. Don't mind wherever I was coming from, quite honestly. It's not your business. But thankfully, I am here. I'm joined by several bright minds who I tend to look to in the dark of night, especially one of them in particular who's joining us. First, we'll bring on Mr. Mike Pribozie onto the show, and then we'll see on the bottom the man who I really look to, thankfully because of the reflection off the dome, Mr. Murray Slough. He is the lighthouse when you're walking down the sidewalk at like 11 at night. Just the street lamps shine off of you like a beacon. And also, you're pretty knowledgeable about harness, so
I appreciate that. Got the natural light here in the Soil Kings World Headquarters home office.
Jealous. It's been overcast and gloomy all day here. How about for you, Mike? How's the weather? Just to show how interesting this whole show is. We're talking the weather.
Windy, rainy. Yeah, windy, rainy, but warm. It's like 70 today. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was
probably 35 yesterday, so.
It's at least 10 degrees hotter inside of my clothes, just for those keeping score at home. We have a lot to talk about on this portion of the show. I do mean portion, Mikey, because there's so much stuff happening in harness now. We have to segment this thing up. We have racing to talk about from Fraser. We have a special look at Century Downs action for this Saturday because they have a big Pick 5 carryover. Sure, it's only $3,500, but that's enough of an amount to really nullify your already low. Murray, you were telling us before air, 15% takeout?
Yes, 50% takeout and over 3,800, Ray. Don't sell us short. Yes.
Oh, I must have been doing the conversions in my head already.
Yeah, let's not get into tariffs or conversions, but yeah, 3,800 Canadian dead dollars in the Pick 5 for Saturday. Low 50% takeout on new money. Starts in race 1 on Saturday. We're going to get into that a bit later, and hoping it's a big pool. I think it should be on Saturday. Looking forward to it.
And I mean, 15% takeout, that means it's 0% rake until the pool gets somewhere over 40,000. So that's...
Yeah, I leave that hard math to Buck Swope, but it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he has to do that math specifically down to the singles when he's hard at his job.
He does. Yes.
Hard at his job can go multiple ways when we're talking about Bucky. But before we talk about Century, let's take a look at Fraser, where we've been looking fairly decently over the last few weeks. You know, their meet started for 2025 in February. Mike, the Pick 4 last week, I'm so glad that this time around we have some fresh faces inside of this late sequence because I could not have had even a reek of a sniff of what was going on in that Pick 4 that paid like $5,000.
Yeah, last week was really difficult. Lots of long shots. I do think that we were against a few of the favorites, but come up with the horses that found ways to win there at big numbers did not happen. So if you watched the show, apologies. We gave you one the week before this past week, and very few people had. I'm surprised it didn't carry.
So sometimes being a public tout is good in two ways. On one way, you help people win money, but then another way, if everyone follows you, then the few people who hate you exorbitantly are the ones you cash the most. There's always a positive, I like to think, inside of this wonderful game of horse racing that loves to just sometimes beat you down. But then you get back up again, if your bankroll's lucky at least. Pick 4 for Fraser, we're going to start with. Starts in race number 5, covers races 5 through 8 on their Friday night card. And it's important to distinguish that because we're talking about Century races for Saturday. But Friday's card, April the 6th, 2025. Their late Pick 4 opens with a non-winners of 2 events, $6,500 purse. And fairly significant start inside of this sequence. Mike, we'll start with you because big morning line favorite is Whack 5, probably not going to play that high, and he definitely seems like a tough one.
Looks really tough to me in the race. Came back off the bench from a November layoff. and picked up right pretty much where he left off at 3 with a blowout win. And he's facing many of the same types here. Moneybags, Alligator, all faced this one last time and really had no chance against. I mean, he crushed. I don't really see much in here that can beat him. I guess Holiday Shadow could show speed, gets a slightly better post, but Campbell's off, and now you get Dennis Johnson, who is 4%, and Campbell's about 30%. So I don't want any part of him whatsoever. Moneybags couldn't win last time. I guess he could improve. He was favored in there, but he had the pocket there and really made no impression late. So give me Wash and Wax, and I'll move on.
Murray, are you in agreement? Are we going to have to just kind of follow the chalk?
Yeah, I'm singling Wash and Wax here for the exact same reasons, honestly, that Mike said. I looked at the 6 as well, and I'm like, well, loses Brandon. I mean, this horse isn't too bad, but really a big change there. And then, Moneybags at the 2-hole last time, didn't gain an inch. In fact, lost ground. Kelly got an easy half with Wash and Wax. He got a 59 and change half. Will he have to go quicker this time? Maybe, but I don't even think it would matter because this horse is so much the best. So definite single for me starting off the pick 4 here. No reason to spread out. I singled the 3 here.
Not necessarily certain because we're only looking off of limited races, but the key thing for me looking at Wash and Wax is how no one was gaining on him. And sure, to your point, Murray, he had slow enough fractions where then he had ample boost in the tank to scoot away from the competition. But if no one was really menacing and he gets a good draw here again, it's really tough to imagine what scenario knocks him out of the race. And so he's going to be a logical one. A lot of tickets are going to go through him. That's to say, if you can somehow zag when everyone else is zigging, I think right off the bat, you're going to be open to not a pool shot, but it could get interesting if Wash and Wax gets knocked out of the first leg in the pick 4. Leg 2 is race number 6. It's the feature on the card, $10,000 open pace. And this top class, Murray, is starting to get a bit more spicy. We have a full field this time, the 8. Outlaw stayed the course in the second tier, but we have the best horse on the grounds. It'll Be Fine coming back off a little reprieve. He lands the outermost draw then in this group, and you have a bunch of horses to the inside who seem like they've been begging for the opportunity of a better draw. This is a really good race. I
agree. This is a really good race. This is where I would try to beat the favorite. I'm gonna take 5 horses here. I could throw out It'll Be Fine. That would be the inside the pylon style to do, but I took 5 horses. I took 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 because I think the 7 post can get It'll Be Fine beat here, as well as perhaps this little bit of a layoff he's had, although he does usually race pretty well fresh. I like 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. I mean, the one Zilla Katzen first over last time should get a better trip. You got to include this horse, although he obviously was better when Brandon drove. Probably got to include him from the rail. Whiplash Smile was right there last time. I'm going to include him. The 5 won the race last time. Outlaw See My Shadow with a huge effort. So got to include him. West Coast Speech continues to race well, despite me still thinking he's an 8 claimer. Honestly, it's just part of the Rebecca Canuck train. Get out of the way or you get ran over. So I'm going to include him, and I'm going to include It'll Be Fine. If I wanted to really go completely against the favorite, though, I maybe would throw in the 8 instead of the 7 because he's got a trailing trip, and he was right there last time too. I ended up, for this podcast and for what I will probably bet, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. But obviously my angle here is hoping and thinking It'll Be Fine maybe doesn't win this one this week.
But Mike, kind of a testament to It'll Be Fine and his sharpness against this group of horses, where even in a situation where Murray says, I think he can get beat, he still can't throw him off the ticket. And like even time and time again, when he's landed these outside draws against these groups, I'm thinking, well, he's going to have to take back. There's no way he can circle the field. And he keeps doing it.
The reason I left him in is last time sat last, although there was only 5 horses, sat last off a 58 1/2 when they got a 31 1 second quarter. I think that's it. He's not going to win this time. Fraser's very hard to win from last, and he still won. So if he can win that one, yes, he can win this one from the 7, but I don't see him leaving a whole lot, which means he may get away last because it is the outside post and the trailer is going to get away behind Zilla Katzen. So, I mean, he gets away last. Can he circle them all? Maybe. I think it's a good week to at least entertain him not getting there this week with the bigger field. That's the key, right? It's not a 5-horse field.
But I mean, at the same time with that draw, Mike, he can still kind of land mid-pack, and no matter what, everyone driving is going to have their eyes on him.
He could. He's very good. 3 straight wins, but he certainly leaves himself a lot to do some weeks. And he's capable of getting beat, depending on trip. This is going to be a tough race because there's lots of legitimate speed inside him. I think that it's, for me, I'm going to be like Murray. I'm going to just leave him completely off. I'm going to use Hurricane Frino. I like him a lot. Very speedy. He's got an inside draw. Now, different driver here, but really can win with any kind of trip. I do like the last 2 where he actually has stayed flat. I mean, that was a quick mile last time. I could see him going early, and depends on what the 1 does from the rail, what kind of trip he's going to get, but I could definitely see that one. Outlaw See My Shadows, hard to leave off. Second off the bench, was able to beat these types. Now, again, another quick race, but came off the pace. This one is always around it at these top levels. He's lightly raced, didn't get a lot of racing last year, but he's won 200,000. So I like the fact that he's in form. He's third back. He's drawn in the middle of the gate. And then I'll use West Coast Beach. I think that one could blast. Just missed last time. Had broken equipment versus It'll Be Fine. There's no value in It'll Be Fine. It's going to be on every ticket. So let's see if we can get some of these inside horses to jump up and win this race, especially because I'm keying the favorite in the first leg. So I'll be 4, 5, 6.
I have a hard time seeing, though, It'll Be Fine going off odds on from the 7 hole. I feel like to a certain degree, his draw inside of this race probably pumps his price up a tad, even if it's just like the 8 to 5. But he keeps proving how much better he is than these horses that it's hard for me to not think that he won't stand a chance no matter what. In every situation that I feel like he's supposed to lose, he still wins. And to many of your guys' point, or maybe more to Mike's point as he's been talking about it, there's also a lot of speed early inside of the race. And so that could also help aid horses coming from off the pace. I use It'll Be Fine because I think he's probably going to offer a better price than he has against the shorter fields. But I
on the win end, but not in multis, though. He won't offer a good price in multis.
Sure, because a lot of the people spreading in the 20-cent minimum, allowing people to really spread, it does really hurt the return of that. I agree there. But again, like even of the speed horses, I have a hard time wanting to take any of them. I settled on Whiplash Smile as the only other horse I use. I feel like he's going to be an okay price. It's interesting to see Malloy get back in the bike after Terrace took a ride around the track with this guy from a bad draw. He gets a good draw this time, and he's got speed. He's just been forced to take back as a result of his posts and everyone else to his inside maybe being a little tighter or whatnot. This seems like a good spot for him to maybe show he belongs at this class. Worst to worst, he ends up just dropping in class and popping and winning most likely. But I'm 2-7. I can't really get super imaginative in this race because again, every time I do, It'll Be Fine just shows me a whole other dimension. And so I'll let him do it. West Coast Beach is going to be a short price. I don't think he's going to provide as much value in the multis as we think. A lot of the value to me, I think, comes in the last 2 legs. Race 7, 5,000 claimer, $5,200 purse. 8 horses going poster in this one. Billy Buxton, the 2-1 favorite. Mike, 3 starts ago, this horse was just inexplicably flat. Otherwise has dominated against similar. Are we a little wavering about this guy, knowing that line 3 starts ago is a possibility here?
I mean, it's always possible for horses not to fire. The problem is there's just not that much in here to really, you're banking on him not firing versus other horses stepping up to beat him. So I think you have to use him. He's won 3 out of 4. He has, the right post here. I think that Hort drove him very well last time. I expect him to be forward again. And a lot of the other ones that have shown speed in the past really haven't been showing it recently. I'd be curious to see what happens with the 3, Chuck U. Farley. He's an in and outer for sure. He's won a couple and then, he's had a couple stinkers the last 4 races. So last time, that was a tougher race. Airline Pilot, Outlaw Duke Worthy, better than these horses. He's drawn very well. It seems to need to come from way off of it, but I do think he could be in a better spot early now from this post, and he's the one that can threaten Billy Buxton. The rest of them, I just don't see it. I'm not a fan. I guess maybe Outlaw, Grand Torino, maybe, but that's a 7% barn and a horse that is 8 for 103 in the 8 post. So, and you think he's going to win back to back? No, I'm 3-6, and that's all I need there.
I could not disagree with you more, Mike. I'm hoping that Murray's maybe a little bit more creative inside of this leg.
I'm with Mike. This group is a
You're
group
both
that is
wrong.
extremely incapable of winning races. The only other horse that I would even give a slight chance to is in the also eligible ranks. The 9, I would definitely give a chance to if he drew in. The 4 is a horse that's dropping, but is also just a horse that I don't think is a big winner. The rest of them, no shot. Throw them right out.
No.
If you name one of these other horses and say he's going to win, Ray, I will argue it with you.
I got two to argue with you, Murray.
Well, Chucky Farley has to be included. He was in for 8 last time, and the first start Dave Udon had him, he had broken equipment. The only other start he's had, he won. Now Phil drove that day, so this is a goofy horse that honestly, if Phil was driving, I would really like him, but I have to include him here. The 6 is obvious. The rest of these horses are poor. So you go ahead, Ray. You tell us.
Why can't John Abbott launch Trust in Me from the pylon post?
Well, he's one win his last 2 years.
Could have 2 wins in the last 2 years.
Yeah, he had the rail 2 starts ago, but got beat by Billy Buxton. Yeah, it does show interference.
And he had to go first up.
Yeah. Well, what's the difference here? Why does Billy Buxton not clear him this week if he cleared that week? Yeah, the rail.
I'm not necessarily thinking that. I'm thinking of how Billy Buxton. Again, that line 3 starts ago just bothers me. He's supposed to be much the best there, and granted, he didn't do well because he didn't clear, and he probably got locked in. But I have a hard time just settling on a horse that needs to get the lead like that when there is speed to the inside. This horse now has 3 starts under his belt, and so we might be able to see him show a little bit more push now that he has a little bit more recency. He's a bit tighter. I could see him
leading and getting the 2-hole. I don't see him parking.
And maybe if he gets the 2. Maybe if he gets the 2-hole, that's not that bad because Billy Buxton, he's only winning by like under a length in a lot of races. So it's not like the last quarter of a mile is necessarily his strongest suit. If he has a horse swelling behind him, I don't want the chalk in that.
He never passes anyone is just a slight wrench in your argument there. He never passes anyone.
Sure, but
I can see what you're saying, but that's his problem.
Here's the other one. I'll say, okay, maybe the one. Who else?
Living on adrenaline, I think on the post switch could be a bit interesting if the speed folds.
I can never figure out if Kevin Anderson's going to go first up and try and roll or sit back and do nothing like he always does. Well, it's either one or the other.
Here's the important thing to remember, though. Here's the important thing to remember, though, too. Billy Buxton, he has speed. Monet also has plenty of speed, and Jacoby can launch this guy probably to the front if he wants. And this is cheap speed. So that's another reason why I have a hard time taking Billy Buxton is that if he somehow is beaten to the punch, doesn't quarter move, he could potentially get into a really tough spot. I don't want to rely on a one-type horse in a race where it does not look like the speed's going to carry them home. I want to try and take a chance, especially since I have 2 chalks in the first leg, and I don't want this to pay $20.
Mm-hmm. That's why I spread last leg where I went against It'll Be Fine. But I understand. I mean, to me, if someone comes from off it to win, it's going to be Chucky Farley. It's not going to be the 2. Like Chucky Farley doesn't have to have the front, and he won't have the front.
That very well could be.
But he also could break.
Right, and that's a reason why I have a hard time taking him too. You're going to get a short price on a really quirky horse.
So you like just 1 and 2?
I just use 1 and 2.
Okay.
That's my hedge. I'm taking a shot inside that one. I'm taking a shot in the last leg too.
Take a shot somewhere.
Exactly, because the first race has a massive favorite. Second race is a spread, but if It'll Be Fine wins, to Mike's point, he's going to be used on a lot of tickets.
It'll pay nothing if he wins.
Third leg needs to pay for it to be interesting. I think fourth leg needs to as well. $12,000 claimers pays off the pick 4. Morning line favorite, technically the 7, One Tough Beach Boy on the class drop. But Murray, from that outside draw, for one, do we think he actually takes play because he's been against tougher horses? Or otherwise, I can't tell who's the favorite inside.
I think he's going to be the favorite. I think he takes play because people love times, especially at Fraser. I mean, fastest times gets bet. This horse shows a lot of fast times, and he's also dropping, so he'll get bet. I honestly think this horse leaves. I think he gets parked, and he might still win if he gets parked. He raced really well 2 starts ago in the preferred against It'll Be Fine. He came up the inside, looked like he was going to win, and then he just came up short against It'll Be Fine. And West Coast Beach last time parked at an equipment. Whoa, So I crossed that one out. I'm using him because I honestly think he just rolls the horse and he doesn't care if he gets parked. He just keeps rolling, which Scranage does do sometimes. So I used him, but I also used the 3 Catch Me Oliver. I think he's going to get a much better trip from the 3 hole than he got from the 7 last time. And I see him as being a possible comfort behind threat. The rest of these, honestly, but the buddy horses, Buddyville and Buddy Knox, they're second, third, or fourth itis. Like, they can't win, right? They're mired in second, third, and fourth. The 5 and 6 to me aren't competitive, and the 8 box steady, you got a trailing post, never passes anyone. He's a speed horse, so I threw him out. So I've got 3 and 7 to finish it off. And this is an interesting race. This one, I could see you can make more of a case, in my opinion, but I had to keep it narrow, so I went with 3 and 7.
Aha, I don't got to keep it narrow. But Mike, are you kind of in agreement on the Choxon side of this one?
I'm against the 7. I don't want him. Just that outside post and the driver. I'm not sure that he's not going to get the best trip from out there. I do think he will take money, and I need to beat favorites also in here. I'm 4 deep. I don't agree, Buddyville. I realize that maybe this year he has second-itis, but he won 9 times in 20 races last year, so this horse knows how to win. And you get Terry's back in the bike. You get an inside draw. Maybe could be a little bit closer early here. I do think that he certainly rates just fine. The one credit as Magic is sort of a hit and miss type also, but could from the inside post push off early. And he's been racing okay. He's getting checks at huge prices. I do think that this could be an okay spot for him. So I don't mind him. I use Catch Me Oliver. I've liked him in a couple of these races, and he's racing very well. He gets a better post. And then the 8, Mock Steady, just lost a brace for impact last time. Ran into a Hurricane Frigno the time before that, and then won 3 back. So gets the second tier draw here. Probably should be forward, could maybe make an early move. Certainly always takes money, and I do think will take less money than the 7. So I was a little spready here, like the 1, the 2, the 3, the 8 for me.
All right, I agree with 2 of those, Mike. Even though Murray said Mock Study doesn't like to pass horses, I think that if Credit is Magic leaves fast enough and he can get close, Hort may make a move to go to the front. He might not. That's kind of the hedge of the bet on that front. But Credit is Magic at 15-1 on the morning line, I think, is great value in a race where I feel the speed can go. Because Buddyville, to Murray's point, something's just not clicking. And I thought that this guy would have it all together. And he's been in so many races where the speed has seemed weak and he just can't gain any ground over this track. And so I feel like, if anything, he could potentially be an anchor for anyone who tries to close. Whatever the 7 does, I also do feel influences how this race unfolds. If Scranage wants to launch off the gate, he might get parked. And so from there, that could help the closers. But since Buddyville, again, he doesn't gain ground. So even if he's 3 wide, but he's not moving forward into a slow pace, it would be a weird race. And this race can get super weird. So I'm kind of hoping that the speed is solid enough to go all the way around. Credit is Magic for me. Mock Steady. He's going to follow him off the wings and hopefully maybe be aggressive through the quarter. And I also do throw on Buddy Knox just because this guy could also fire out. I feel like Catch Me Oliver is going to take back, and especially if he gets sandwiched by speed at the pylon, speed to the outside, that might force Hudon to have to wrangle back. And from there, he might have to go first up. So 148 for me in the last leg, and price-wise, I think they're all going to at least be somewhat interesting, especially since we have the chalk so early. So Murray, your Fraser ticket for Friday.
Yes, it is 3 with 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 with 3, 6 with 3, 7. $20 for $1, or a very inexpensive $4 for 20 cents.
Mike, that was your cue.
Okay. 3 with 4, 5, 6 with 3, 6 with 1, 2, 3, 8, and it is 24 for $1. And I do think it's worth playing on Friday.
Mine is 3 with 2, 7 with 1, 2 with 1, 4, 8. That is $12, and I did that math just now. That's the Fraser pick 4. We're gonna expand our horizons a tad, move a bit eastwardly. Century Downs in, let me get this right, Calgary.
Correct.
because Century Mile is in Edmonton.
You got it.
Where the old
Way ahead of
Northlands
almost
Park,
everyone else.
Northlands Park was Edmonton.
Yes.
And then
Stampede Park
Calgary.
was Calgary.
Right.
Yes. Now Century Downs, you bet.
Mm-hmm. And so before we get into that, Murray, why 11/16? Why is it not just a 5/8?
I wasn't involved in the building of the track. I more call the races there. So I think it had something to do with that's just the amount of land they ended up having for the track. So we have the unique dimensions of 11/16 of a mile, the only one in North America, or probably the world, I would guess.
Does that make the stretch long or the turns wider?
It makes the stretch very short, in my experience.
Oh, okay.
You've watched races from Century Downs,
Sure.
have you not? Yeah, the stretch is not
well,
very long.
when they're coming home in like 32 seconds, it feels like a long stretch.
I mean, Brandon ripped off a 54-mile in a blizzard on opening day.
Right, and
yeah, where'd that come from? We'll be talking about that.
Yeah, that's in the pick 5. So yes, we will.
I couldn't remember if that opened the pick 5 or not, because that would have been a perfect segue. But he does have an interesting horse in the first leg of the pick 5. Reminder for everybody: $3,800 carryover in this Century Downs pick 5, 20-cent minimum, 15% takeout. Starts in race number 1. Murray, you said post time is
12:45 here locally, 2:45 Eastern.
And so it's nestled perfectly to be a potential bankroll builder ahead of, Wood Memorial, Santa Anita Derby.
Yes.
Keeneland's now racing on Monday, so there's a lot more time to build your bankroll for that. But the first leg is incredibly interesting, Murray. For one, because you have Travis Ellis, who, as those unfamiliar, solid trainer in Western Canada, does a lot of good work, to my memory, in Manitoba.
Yes, he's from Manitoba. Yeah.
If I remember right. And he's got Flying Officer, morning line favorite, who folded off the first over push. He's next door to a Brandon Campbell acquisition from earlier this year. You know who is only coming in off of that qualifier. So, Murray, twofold question for you. Flying Officer, legitimate morning line favorite, and how weary should we be of this fresh Campbell horse?
I think the 6 will be the favorite, but not really a new acquisition for Brandon. He claimed this horse back. He actually put all 11 of the wins on this horse that he had last year, I'm pretty sure. So he knows this horse well. He did claim it back in January. Horse has had a little time off, which he definitely needed, and he's my top pick here. This horse loves to win races, 11 for 26 last year. He can go to the front. He can race from off the pace. Brandon, of course, batting an insane 528 on the driving side. He wins about 30% of his races here at Century Downs. So as Mike mentioned, he does at Fraser as well. So not a guy you're going to leave out. And for me, I looked at the 7 claimers here. We got 5 claimers mixed with 7 claimers. The 6 and the 5, the winner should come from those 2. I think the 6 will be the favorite. I also threw in the 8 Bud Naked, because this horse is solid when he gets in against a weaker group. And there might be some speed where he is circling late. So I came up with 5, 6, 8 here, which is nothing earth-shattering, but I think that's enough that gets you through the first leg. And what's a bit of a tricky race, honestly, with the 5 mixed with the 7 claimers. But I've got 5, 6, 8 here.
And certainly, Mike, we might not be as familiar with these horses as Murray, but, I look at Flying Officer's line. Sure, it was his first start in a month, but to fold that harshly on the first over push, drawing that post, it's kind of tough to want to take him at a short price. Then, of course, we know Campbell's good, but you never know how the horse is going to be first off the bench.
Yeah, I agree. I'm no 5. I'm going to try to get him out of the ticket here to get started. I do think it's wide open. Agree with the 6 and 8, Murray said. The 6 is pretty obvious, but it's going to take Campbell money. The 8, I think, has a good chance. This is maybe a horse that was in too tough last time. This is, similar horses, but gets a few that are 5 claimers in here. Probably should be better. I thought the 9 was really good last time. Larius Debs Rock. That horse has raced all around Canada. Raced at London, raced at Rideau, raced at Woodbine at one point. And it's just a big closer, but came off the bench to race very well and to win at a price. Now, it's going to be off it again, but some of these horses have plenty of speed in here, and they could be backing up late. This horse doesn't win a ton recently, but certainly has 22 lifetime wins and is capable. Definitely in form, has a little recency over some of the others. So I think that one could be used. And then the 4 Retros Mystery, Kelly O'Hort's second back, raced okay last time in that race, was bet to 4-1 versus those horses. is inside the other 2 speed horses, so maybe could end up with a trip. There's other speed in the race, though, but if this horse gets the right spot early, maybe could be okay late. Raced very well last year, won 7 races, was in the money in 20 of those races. So that would get a good start to this pick 5. I would be 4, 6, 8, and 9.
Before I get to my numbers, quick question on how the track was playing last week, Murray, because also those who may have not tuned into opening day, you guys had a snowy deluge that gradually, as we'll see, made the track go from snow as the condition to muddy.
Yes.
So,
that's exactly what happened. I mean, we were racing in basically a blizzard, snow coming down sideways. Kudos to everybody for getting the card off. But what happened was the card started off with the track rock hard, basically, because they graded off so much surface in the morning because of the snow. So the very first race was when Midnight Mover, went down the road in 154. Credited that horse, and it was a big effort, but that was when the track was rock hard. It just gradually got softer and softer and softer throughout the day, and that is the one reason why I actually almost put in Larry's Deb's Rock, because this horse won the very last race of the day and raced a pretty big mile to go in 2 minutes, honestly, with the conditions that we were in at that point, and made up a lot of ground on a track that was very hard to get a hold of and very hard to gain on. So that's what happened. Basically, the track basically deteriorated throughout the day on Saturday. So if you're looking at horses that race later on in the day on Saturday, disregard times for sure. And you can almost disregard the entire race because some horses just didn't get a hold of the track.
And that was what I was wondering, because in some respects, it seemed like the race in a way set up for Larry is Deb's Rock, because
it did, but no one else closed, and he closed a lot. Like, he made up a lot of ground, so it was a good effort. To replicate that against these is why I left him out, because I'm not sure he can, but he did race extremely well. If this was a 5 claimer and there were no 7s in there, I would definitely have him in.
Well, I guess to my point, though, if we're operating on the track is going to be much sounder than it was on opening day. Then that probably doesn't make that effort as flattering. If he was just traveling over the course better than everyone else, then that was his advantage. That advantage now gone inside of this spot. Plus, he has the second tier, which sometimes is weird. For me, in this first leg, I use 5-6 because even though I would have liked to see Flying Officer not falter as much going first up. That was in a 57 mile, to what Murray said, on a track that was really slow at that point.
Redstone Arsenal was huge in that race, and he doesn't have to face a horse that caliber here. That's the key.
I think the other key is Travis Ellis.
Absolutely.
His barn always does so well in Alberta, and especially in Manitoba. He wins like half the races in Manitoba every single year. But I use Campbell as well because the horse very well could just go down the road. But I'm kind of interested on the 2 in the inside. The 2 Blue Who. I'm going to pitch that last race because it seems like he tried to leave out from post 8 and then just got caught in a tough spot. And then from there, it was just trying to make do with whatever was possible. And it just turned out nothing was possible. So I'm curious how he improves, if he improves with like an actionable post this time. And we know Jamie Youngquist can launch a horse if he needs to, at least into a good position. Because this guy shows some okay efforts. His race at Century Mile on Feb 12th was able to close ground, albeit it was kind of slow at the end. He was favored, though, in that race. So he's a capable horse, it seems like, against a group like this potentially. Right next door, then I also use Gonna Funk You Up just because he's going to have speed as well. And if he can get to the front and carve the fractions his own way, maybe that's the way down the road. So I'm
good luck announcing that horse, Murray.
Yeah, this horse has raced 212 times. I think I've announced 200 of those 212 races. I've announced this horse so many times and carefully.
I hope they invite you to the birthday party then every year for that. Race 2, that would be January 1st, I guess, technically. Race 2, Fillies and Mares, $10,000 claiming. I feel like this is a tough race to have inside of a sequence like this, Murray, because the 2, Dally Dancer, feels so obvious, and it's such a short field. And there's a part of you, when there's a carryover like this, where you just keep thinking, there's got to be other options. Like, I can't just be locked into this horse. But every time I looked up and down the page, it's really tough to see how she loses from this spot.
I mean, she's solid here. I actually use 2 and 3. I mean, I'm doubling the cost on my ticket, but I'm including the 3 because Beneath the Cover was parked the entire mile last time in her first start for Greg Manning, who does well with new recruits. and just parked every single step and was a solid second. So it would stand to reason with a better trip, she could at least challenge Dolly Dancer. And Dolly Dancer is not overpowering, although obviously winning with great regularity. Jamie Gray's done a great job just keeping her in the same class. He's obviously a very good horseman, has kept the horse good, but she is not an overpowering horse. So for me, I did not want a single, but I can't really make a great case for anyone else. Beneath the cover, coming off that parked out trip, I included her. So I'm just 2-3 here. I am singling later in the sequence.
The problem for me, Mike, we kind of saw this with the favorite in the first leg of the Fraser pick four. When you have a horse that just so easily pulls away from horses they're back in against, it's hard to imagine how in 1 week someone is going to gain ground on the chalk. So are you kind of in agreement that Dolly Dancer is the single, or are you kind of go with Murray to hope that you can somehow make your pick five pay more?
Yeah, I mean, she was 15 cents versus these horse last time and won by 4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't have, there's no point in trying to oppose this horse. If she loses, I lose. And that's going to be the way it's going to be. I don't really, the rest of them aren't nearly as sharp, aren't as fast. She controls the race, and something would have to happen, I think, for her to get beat.
Well said. I'm going to use all of that as my reasoning too. So we can go to the third leg, race 3, $15,000 claiming event, $8,900 purse, 8 horses going postward. And now we talked about that. We alluded to this quite a lot, Murray. Midnight Mover, that was the only race when the track was rock hard, I imagine, because that would also explain the stark time difference. So how then do we weight this horse into a race like this? Is there a reason that we should maybe underrate that?
I could see someone going against Midnight Mover because he did race in the absolute best conditions, the rock hard. But I think maybe too many people are going to go that way. So I'm going the other way and singling this horse, because even though the track was hard to start the card, it was still a driving snowstorm and not easy conditions to race in. It was his very first start for Travis Ellis and with Brandon Campbell driving ever. And the horse was just phenomenal. I mean, I picked this horse that day. I said off the change, I picked him. He was 10-1 morning line, goes off even money and absolutely destroys. And he did it easily. He had lots left. And then they add Lasix now for this next start. So for me, it's a single, or you got to spread way out in this race, because there are some capable horses. But for me, it was single Midnight Mover. Take my chances that it certainly wasn't just because the track was hard. And this horse is super sharp for the new connections. And it's single for me and move on.
Same for you, Mike?
Well, I would probably use this horse as a lone A type on the main ticket. I don't know where that mile came from. But any sort of repeat is really difficult to oppose. And then I think a lot of money will run through the 5 Blast of Sunshine. I mean, faced Shark Week last time and finished 3rd. Obviously, like Midnight Mover didn't turn into Shark Week all of a sudden here. So that would be the one maybe to use. But, Barnes a little cold right now, 0 for 18 so far.
Like Jerry Hudon does a great job, but he's had a slow start this year, right? So that's kind of scared me off his horses until he gets going. But I think a lot of money will go on Blast of Sunshine in this sequence.
Is Handsome Dan, because he's so sharp. 3 wins and 4 starts so far this year. Comes off a nice qualifier with a nice kick there. So that would be the one for me that if the 6 falls back to earth, I think Handsome Dan is definitely, he's 8-1 morning line. He's going to play every bit of that, I do think, in this sequence. So I think that he could be the one to use if, on a backup type ticket. That would be the kind of my strategy. Main ticket with the 6 back, because I don't really like adding Lasix off a win. That's a negative sign for me. But they just got this horse, and all of a sudden now that maybe is a different animal. So hard to oppose. Little 6, little 7.
I'm 6 and 7. And don't check that. So if you get like a basketball player standing right next to me, we are the same height, just about. I feel like it's the most obvious Midnight Mover off that win. He only has the opportunity to do better. And I understand the wariness, Mike, of first-time Lasix off of a win. You think, well, why do you need Lasix when you did so well? Obviously, something must be amiss. Well, it could make him perform better. Like It could fit. He could have won in spite of bleeding and be even better with the Lasix this time
interesting
around.
theory. So, but I
It's
just don't
possible.
like it. I find it to be a negative angle, and I've done okay with that theory.
Well, but at the same time, like this is defending the not lucrative. This is basically trying to argue that the sky is blue in some ways, because he's going to be such a short price inside of the sequence that any reason you can find to go against him is potentially to your benefit. Like the probability of other horses actually winning the race, that of course varies, but I'm with you on Handsome Dan as the alternative. I feel like off the qualifier, he's probably going to be able to pick up business as usual. I just wonder if Sobey's going to be able to get him forward, because this guy most likely has to be close to do his best work, and especially since Midnight Magic most likely is going forward, I think the only way Handsome Dan is actually able to topple the favorite is if he's in the pocket and is able to just draft behind, swell, turn for home, and attempt to overpower. That's the only scenario where it works, but I'm also hoping the 8-1 morning line kind of plays in our favor in the odd chance it sets up like that. So I'm 6-7 in the third leg. Fourth leg is race number 4, Fillies and Mares condition claiming for a $10,000 tag. Murray, I don't respect this 5 Heston's Free Chips as the favorite. Am I wrong here?
I have all in this leg. So
okay.
That's, and I'm not steering anyone wrong. When I bet my ticket, I'm going to have all in this leg, because I don't like Heston's Free Chips either a whole lot. This horse was all out last time at the wire, got a 101.5, albeit in poor conditions, but basically looked pretty much done at the wire, barely held on. The 3 was gaining nicely at the end, Little Reese Chick. The horse I picked on top of my picks, though, that of course are seen at CenturyDowns.com and NahooPicks.com, is the 6 Kelly's Chase, because Brinsley Brooking Lutz does a great job with new recruits. Her and her partner there, Harvey Jager, they find bargains, and they do well with them. And this horse is interesting to me because she actually raced pretty well last year as well for the former connection, Jacques Lambert, who's since gone to Ontario. And so this is the interesting horse for me, but it wasn't a horse I could single or anything. I have all, but I'm interested in betting the 6 Kelly's Chase in here.
This could very well be an all race, Mike, appealing, especially because there's only 6 horses here.
Yeah, Murray, I'm just curious. Do you have any info about the driver here? Like the very limited starts there.
Yeah, he drove lots last year. He is actually Brinsley Brooking Lutz's boyfriend, Tom Miller, but he drove lots of horses for them last year as well. Usually James is kind of taken over driving all of their horses, but he's driving the 5. So that would be why we see Tom Miller get into action. But yeah, he's been around. He's a capable driver. But yeah, just one drive on the year is actually surprising when I see that. He didn't really drive up at Century Mile, I guess. So, but I wouldn't be too scared off by that, and might help us get a little bit better price, because it's not like it's Brandon jumping up on the horse. I'm getting the horse off the trainer change, So yeah, I'm not scared off by the driver.
Yeah, I think that one fits and is a definite use. The 3, I do agree, should race well second back. That would be another main use. The 5, I'm a little iffy on. I'm not sure what to do with that one. I mean, did beat most of these last time, but you mentioned all out at the wire. The trip probably won't be the same. So I probably would take a negative approach to that one. I could see the 2 second back. I know really didn't race that great last time, but lots of breaks in the form, but certainly has speed as an inside post, could push the 5 there, could end up with the right trip. It's David Kelly. So I do think that the connection's there. Maybe opposing the 5, I think, is the right move here. So I probably would be 2, 3, and 6.
I'm 3-4, which contradicts when I just said I'm 6-7. My height, it really just kind of depends on how I'm feeling. But in this situation, I'm feeling like Lil Reese Chick, because she was able to gain ground in that race and had something left to offer when the favorite very obviously was on fumes. I think only translates well.
Stayed flat too.
Start.
Just has to stay flat, and she has a chance. Yeah,
stays well, and so I feel like if she could stay flat, as Murray said, on that track.
True enough.
Things might be.
Since he put Jamie on to drive, no brakes, right? So that is a good sign for her.
And Jamie's the type of driver that I think he has enough patience that he can keep the horse calm with his hands.
Very calm driver.
It's a pretty nice matching in that regard. But then right next door, the 4 Dragon Dancer. I don't know how this horse plays 10-1 on the morning line. I don't know how the morning line is really going to play in this race based on the multis at the very least, because this gal's always going first up, and only one time did she really not have much to offer, and that was 2 starts ago over a Century Mile. But she had time off since then. I don't mind the effort coming back here to Century Downs, where she ended up just finishing 3rd. She could just kind of make the move at the right time and maybe get up and have an ample enough cushion to win, because it's not like if the 5 gets the front, she's the strongest pace setter in the world. You just have to put a nose up on her and hope that the closers are too far back. You win the race. And so that's kind of my theory, and the price definitely appealing, but she was 5-2 last time, so I'm curious how she truly plays in this sequence. Payoff leg is race number 5, non-winners of 2, with some other conditions that I don't really feel like reading. $7,900 the purse, 9 horses going postward. Murray, new import here from trainer Lyle MacArthur in Ontario. He's still watching 2-1 morning line favorite for an 0-27 barn. Is this really the favorite?
How about there being 2 imports in this race bought by the same guy at Sherwood Park, the 3 and the 7. Got a horse coming in from Dover, horse coming in from Mohawk. They go to different trainers just to make things even more complicated. And you got a big 9-horse field here. This is a great payoff leg. I love it. I took 1, 2, 7, 8, and 9. I put the 1 in Bobby Big Wheels. I'm a big fan of this horse. I liked him last time. Looked like he didn't get a hold of the track. It's honestly the only Howlett horse that hasn't raced good in about a month. So I'm not going to come off him now with the rail. Howlett's on fire. He won 2 races on Wednesday, so that's a barn to watch. I included the 1. 2's obvious. Raced great last time. Brandon got the horse a nice trip. Closed well. Obviously have to use that horse. I use the Woodbine Invader, the 7. These horses generally get overbet when they come out here. You could see Takeout Hanover, for example, the 9. You know, it was pacing in 53 at Woodbine, and it won here last week in 59. I mean, on and off track. But still, the times don't translate. People still bet the times. But I do respect the horse in this class as a horse that I have to use. It is an 0-27 trainer, but generally Lance Ward is a better trainer than that. So I'm going to include the 7. I included the 8, got used hard on the 8 hole last time on the muddy track. Got the 8 hole again, but the horse on a fast track maybe lasts a little longer. And I included the 9 because he's the one that beat both the 2 and the 8 last time in the same class and could get that same kind of following trip. So this is a race where I think you honestly should use as many as you can afford. And I set up my ticket so that I can use 5, and I've got 1, 2, 7, 8, and 9.
I added 2 horses onto my ticket based off of what Murray just said. Mike, how about you? Where do you stand in this payoff leg?
Yeah, I think we're all going to be spready. Agree on the 1, agree on the 2. You have to leave Campbell in there. The 3, I think, is okay. Titanic Hanover comes off a blowout qualifier and a fairly quick time coming from Dover. I think that one probably needs to be used. The 5, Murray didn't mention, I don't believe, Blue Line Bruiser. Just a consistent type, second back, raced in stakes in the past. I mean, this horse has, $100,000 stakes race in the lines here. And I know it's 40-1 in the race, but I do think that, that's, better than most of these. There's a lot of these horses in this race that struggle. I would probably be against the 7, against the 9 here. Just the 9's moving outside after a win from an inside post and is going to take money. I don't want him. The 7, I do think he's going to be way low as far as multis go, and I would try to oppose him just in a wide open race. And I could see the 8 for sure. Speed last time was favored versus these. Has 4 wins and 26 starts. A lot of these don't have that many. So 1, 2, 3, 5, and then 8.
The horses that I added for those curious, just so they know how easily manipulatable I am. I added the 8 Outlaw Game On because I didn't really weight the speed effort on the muddy track. I feel appropriately. To your point, if he has a faster track to work with, he probably lasts a bit better in the lane. And plus, we know how good the Hennessy team is at this track, and so I don't. If this guy's incredibly capable of moving forward off of that start. I think just the outside draw again kind of made me weary, but at the end of the day, I don't really have much of an opinion on this race, and so he very well could go forward. I also added Bobby Big Wheels because, again, like I thought that he should have had a bit more closing ground last time, but I mean, you look at those Century Mile efforts, he does stack well against this group. the only downside, he's a 3-year-old against a lot of 4-year-olds, and sometimes that has an impact. I know we're in April, so the 2-year-olds have maybe matured a little bit, but the development edge is still somewhat there for the older horses. This guy at least seems like he has enough power inside the late stages of the mile where if a horse like the 8 gets the lead and he starts to falter, the 1 may be in the rear view, powering home the best. Otherwise, I used the 2 GT's Asher because I thought this guy would go forward, and he may last, he may not. I was gonna say I don't really care, but he's 6-1, so maybe I will.
He won't be 6-1.
Well, especially with Brandon Campbell and the sulky, that's kind of a.
I think Mike's right though. The 7's going to probably get overbet a little bit in the multis, but the second choice will be the 2 for sure.
Yeah, and I got no 7. I don't want anything to do with the 7. You can tell your buddy Owen Pinedo, who I'm sure is a great guy. Like the horse is probably lovely, probably great to be around, but I don't want to bet the thing inside of this race.
That's fair. That's more than fair, Ray.
But I do like the horse next door to him at 10-1 the morning line, with Dave Kelly driving. And this is partially a barn play too, because broke stride, tried to recover on that muddy track. That probably was just too big of a move from the gallop at the start. Starkowski, when he starts rolling, he's one of the top barns in Alberta. And so anytime we can get a horse of his at a big price, who also seems like belongs at this class in some ways, probably do worse things inside of this race.
Yeah, he made up a huge amount of ground, and then he just got tired last time. So I could see that. It's an interesting play. I just feel this horse is a little bit of a low percentage, but he's not bad. Dave Kelly's driving great. That's something in your favor. And certainly any Starkowski horse always has a chance. So interesting horse there.
And so that puts me 4 deep. I'm 1, 2, 6, 8 to wrap the Century Pick 5. Again, Saturday, April 7th, because today we're recording this on the 3rd, the 5th. I'm on Monday. Saturday, April 5th. Monday is Oak Grove, but Saturday is Century, April 5th. Race 1. 12:45 Mountain Time starts the $3,800 carryover pick 5, 20-cent minimum, 15% takeout. Murray, your ticket for this pick 5 carryover.
Reprograms at centurydowns.com. 5, 6, 8 with 2, 3 with 6 with all with 1, 2, 7, 8, 9 only costs $36 for 20 cents.
Hard to get an only $36 with an all in there. Mike, your ticket.
Yep.
4, 6, 8, 9 with 2. On the main ticket with 6, you could throw a 7 in on a backup with 2, 3, 6 with 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. It's 60 for a buck. If you decide to use the 7 somewhere, that could be maybe a little bit more. But I like to play multiple tickets, and with 20-cent tickets, you can play some backups there for sure.
Me, I am 2, 3, 5, 6. I don't know what that adds up to height-wise. With 2, with 6, 7, with 3, 4, with 1, 2, 6, 8. I do know for 20 cents that adds to $14.40. And Murray, I hope some of your numbers align with that, because otherwise it's going to be a long day in the announcer's booth for you and your pick 5 ticket.
I will survive. I'll be fine. I hope you hit it, Ray.
Thank you. That honestly means a lot.
Just not with Caro P. Picasso, but
well, I hope I do hit it with Caro P. Picasso.
With Bobby Big Wheels.
Wait, did you say
spinning those big wheels in the mud last week?
Hold up, did you call him Picasso?
Did I say that wrong? Is that a Western Canadian?
Is the famous
Picasso,
musician?
Picasso.
Is the famous classical musician that comes to your mind Beethoven?
Not quite.
Either way, though, we know that you're going to call every name spectacularly, including Gonna Funk You Up, who yes. I almost funked up just trying to remember the name on Saturday at Century. But thank you for joining us for Fraser as well, Mr. Murray Slough. Again, tell us, when can we expect Century in our households?
The Century Pick 5 carryover?
Or just in general, when are you racing?
Oh, Saturday at 12:45. And Wednesday evenings, which we had our first Wednesday evening last night, which was a lot of fun, under the lights. The lights worked. They look great. Had some action on Twitter, people following along. So Wednesday night, 6:15 here, 8:15 Eastern. a little later on Wednesday night action. I think it's going to keep building. We only had 7 races last night. Pretty soon we're going to have 9 or 10, and it's going to be phenomenal for us on Wednesday nights. So yeah, Saturday afternoons, Wednesday evenings. I appreciate everyone's support that's tuning in.
And Mike, we're excited to integrate more Century into the podcast in the near future.
Yeah, more Century, several dates that they want us to cover. This was a natural spot here with this carryover. They did open last week and just want to promote the Century product. Remember, contest jockey for those Wednesday nights also. So plenty of things to like about Century. Their lower takeouts, competitive racing, and you got Murray. So that's always a plus.
Appreciate that.
No, absolutely. And so, again, we appreciate you, Murray, hopping on, essentially our Western Canada expert when it comes to harness. That does it for this portion. Of course, if you're on the In the Money YouTube page, be on the lookout for a video discussion, as we're about to talk about MGM Borgata Stakes action at Yonkers. Leg 2 of that series is on Monday, April 7th. First race post time there, 6:45 p.m. But that does it for this part. We hope to see you wherever you are, and we hope that wherever you are cashing.